Okay, we're going to dive into a quick overview of a little bit more on why we're doing what we're doing through Project Go here. So, around the room, I have posted some letters. Letter A, letter B is there, they're little pink, you guys see them? C is in the back and D is over here. So we're going to do a walking trivia. So I'm going to throw out a question and there'll be 4 multiple choice answers. So you're going to go stand by the one you think is the most appropriate answer. Instead of me just giving a lecture, I want to make it more interactive. So for the training, this is kind of a fun way just to keep people moving. But yeah, you can do however you'd want to do this. Okay, well, I just went over that. Oh, let's back up. Okay, so we're going to all stand up here. In a typical day, how much time does the average child in America spend outdoors? Is it A, 2 hours, B, 1 hour, C, 10 minutes, or D, 5 minutes? We had a lot of optimists. Oh wait, no, that's not optimists. We have a couple. Yeah, you guys are right, C is 10 minutes. That's what the recent research is showing, 10 minutes. That's pretty sad, isn't it?
And that's average?
Yeah, so what they find is typically that's getting on and off the bus.
Yeah.
Because recess has been cut from a lot of schools. So yeah, we're going to talk about HEPA standards in a minute here, but why it's even more important to make sure our after school settings are at least trying to get them out moving around, because it's not happening in the schools.
Did you say recess has been completely cut?
In a lot of schools it has. Part of that is the, what is it, No Child Left Behind and meeting these standards, and they have to cut some of the stuff they consider slack to get the kids ready for testing. It's very sad. I've talked to preschool. We do an early childhood training too for like preschool age kids, and some of those preschool teachers have gone through the training and they're like, man, I need to rethink what I'm even doing in preschool, because they show a lot of PowerPoints and they do Netflix videos in preschool. And the one preschool teacher said she's watched it go from 2 recesses to 1 in her time, and so who knows if that will get cut in the coming years. So yeah, it's sad. Okay, in a typical day, how much time does the average American child spend in front of electronic screens? A, 8 to 10 hours a day, B, 4 hours a day, C, 1 hour, or D, 30 minutes in front of electronic screens. So this one is a little trickier. It is 8 to 10, and it's not just the cell phone or the smartphone. You know, we're sitting in front of, you can call this electronic screen technically. That's what schools turn to, right? The smart boards and the PowerPoint. So all day long, even in school, they're literally sitting in front of a screen, and then they come home and they have TV and the computer and the little video game in their hand. So 8 to 10 hours a day in front of a screen. A lot of health problems coming because of that. Okay, what are some of the impacts of not getting outside? A, increased risk of inactivity, obesity, heart disease, diabetes. B, decrease in creativity, problem solving, environmental awareness, environmental stewardship. C, increase in stress, depression, ADHD symptoms. Or D, all of the above. And then some. Yes. So that's just scratching the surface. There are so many problems related to inactivity and staying inside the house. Okay, so what is the recommended minimum amount of outdoor time that kids should get each week? Is it A, 10 hours a week, B, 7 hours a week, C, 2 hours a week, or D, 1 hour a week? The recommended minimum, like the absolute bare bones minimum, your kid should at least get this much time outside. And I'm going to give you guys a clue. How would you break it down? If it's a week, how many days are in a week? So what if it's 7 hours a week, what is that a day? So at least an hour a day, minimum, but that's bare bone minimum. Ideally 2 hours or more. So that's not happening, because what was that first one? How many? 10 minutes a day, typical, is what kids are getting. So, yeah. Okay, what do parents and children say is the biggest barrier to outdoor play? Is it A, there's not enough time? B, the accessibility issues with transportation and getting there and the costs of going outdoors? C, fear? Or D, lack of skills? Yeah.
This is related to this question specifically, but does outdoor time count as like organized outdoor sports, or is this strictly like?
No, this is more unstructured, going outside either as a family or a kid just outside to play.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. Yeah, because if you think about the sports and stuff, that would fall into A almost, because they're so scheduled.
Right.
They're like always running somewhere that they don't have time to just play. So think about it. So you guys, a lot of you are saying B still? There he goes. It's actually C. Yeah. It's actually C. And I'm going to give you some resources where you can read up more on the research behind that. But fear is a big thing. And fears come in all different, forms. So it can be fear of nature itself. Oh my gosh, there's mosquitoes that carry, West Nile virus or Zika or, oh my gosh, or the ticks and Lyme's disease. And now there's all these other things they're discovering ticks can transfer. Tornadoes, dogs, seriously, strangers, perverts, traffic, drug dealers, and in some situations, there's some really, really legitimate fears, but a lot of those fears are really blown out of proportion. The media has done a really good job of blowing stuff out of proportion. And so I think when parents oftentimes get the real facts, and we're going to talk about a good book that you can look at to get some of these real facts, just like with the child abduction. You guys heard about the Jacob Wetterling thing that was in the news this past year? So he was my age. I remember when he was kidnapped, we were all scared to go outside. And that's all you heard on the television. Every time you turn on the TV like that, the next year or two after that. And the book I'm going to reference here, they break down what the actual statistics are, how really rare it is. Usually when kids are abducted, it's from someone that's related to them. And I don't know if you can actually call that abduction. That's when like mom and dad are separated and dad doesn't have custody, but he takes the kid anyways. That's usually what the case is. So we really get paranoid about things that, if you think about it, these kids sitting inside on their butts all the time, all day long, that's where the fear should be. There's gonna be some serious health problems down the road. So, okay, you guys can have a seat and we're gonna dive into a little bit of this stuff here now. Kind of startling though, isn't it? I know the screen is really tiny. Last Child in the Woods, Saving Our Children from Nature Deficit Disorder. And I had a copy and then I loaned it out to Vicki, one of our board members. So we don't have it with today. But that book is incredible. That's the reason Project Get Outdoors exists. And a lot of different other organizations and programs popped up. This book came out in 2005. I read it on a road trip out west. I couldn't stop turning the pages. I was crying through the whole book because I grew up Lake Minnetonka area, fort building. We were fort builders. We built forts all over the neighborhood. Every bush, every tree, every shrub, that was our thing. And to read about how kids are growing up under house arrest. They're inside. They don't get these experiences that research is showing. Fort building alone, you learn so much, so many life skills from fort building. And it's something that all different cultures around the world, they see kids do this. It's kind of cool. And there's a certain time, isn't like 5th grade at peaks when you're kind of feeling more independent and all, there's like books on it. So I was really sad that kids aren't getting these opportunities anymore. So this book, he does a really good job of showing the research, talking with pediatricians, psychologists, people in all these different fields, academic fields, and really showing what the trends are and what's happening to our society because people aren't going outside anymore. So we started Project Get Outdoors literally within a year after that book came out. And so our mission is to facilitate outdoor experiences that develop healthy kids and increase environmental stewardship behaviors. So it's kind of a twofold thing. Yes, we want kids to be outside so they're moving around, they're healthy. But also in the end, as they grow up, when you're outside and you play outdoors and you get experience in nature and you feel comfortable with nature and you start to appreciate it, when you grow up, you want to protect it. You vote for the legacy tax amendment for clean water in Minnesota, which I think is pretty awesome. Minnesota, they said, let's raise our taxes. The citizens approved it to protect our resources. That's pretty cool. And we want to kind of have those kinds of thinkers in the future. It's really important we get kids outside. So over the last, what is that? If we piloted in 2005, we became a nonprofit in 2006. 20-some communities. We started out in southeast Minnesota, the Rochester area. So Mayo Clinic's a big thing down there. Mayo Clinic's been a huge supporter of this program because of the health end of it. I think almost every year we get $5,000 to $10,000 from them. And so we started in southeast Minnesota and slowly started expanding kind of diagonally. It was where people heard about us and said, hey, can we do this in our community? And so trying to find volunteers and maybe when I have time to go out and actually bring these resources to other communities. So we're really on an effort right now to train people who can go out and lead these trainings around the state. And we're working on some grants to be able to continue to offer it for free or really cheap. It costs about $250 a person when you add up all the materials and the time to put this together. And that's kind of a steep price. So we're trying to figure out ways we can keep the price down for people to participate. So since we started this program, we've served over 10,000 kids. So I'm pretty proud about that. And hopefully many of those kids were inspired to go fishing now, or they like to go camping, or they really enjoy collecting rocks or fossils because of something they experienced at one of our programs. So we've created this toolkit that you're learning about today here. The training, the handbook, the backpacks, and the equipment trunks that we have available for groups to check out for free. And we're not only training people that work in after-school programming settings, but also daycare providers. And then do you guys know what ECFE is? Early Childhood Family Education. A lot of school districts have ECFE programs, and that's where parents with really little kids, I think you can start with babies, and it goes up to right before preschool, so 3-year-olds. The parent and the child come to the classes together once a week, and they do some activities together, and then they're separated, and mom or dad goes into a room with other parents, and they have these education topics. So we've been infiltrating the ECFE programs and going in and talking to parents to try to help them while their children are really tiny, start thinking about things you can do outside with your kid and why it's important to do that. So we're trying to reach some different audiences. So you can see our cluster, we've really started in the southeast and slowly started moving kind of diagonally and somehow ended up in Crookston, way up almost by Fargo up there. And that was just a random thing. They heard about us, they had some grant funding and they said, can we do this up here? So kind of hopped around. So we had to create a logic model for some of the grant writing we were doing, and it just kind of shows what you're investing into your program and what those outputs should be, what the short-term and long-term goals are. And so for me, what keeps me going is the environmental goals that we have with this program. And this is short-term. You start doing these kinds of activities with the kids you work with, and within a month or two, you're going to start seeing some of these things. You're going to start seeing that kids start to develop awareness of and experiences in places near to their community where they can find nature. They'll start to become more aware of the local ecosystems, the forests, the open prairies, the waters that are around them. They'll start to express more positive attitudes about nature, and they'll also feel comfortable and safe going outside. And this is something that every single program leader, we have testimonials on. They just can't believe it. The first couple times the program starts, kids are like, we're going outside? We have to walk. Oh, we're going in the woods. And then after about a month, they're like, where are we going today? Are we going back to the woods where we did that thing? Are we going to go build another shelter? And they're so excited to go out because they've started to form an attachment and comfort in those places. So that's something you see immediately. Down the road as they grow up, we want them to become citizens that demonstrate environmental stewardship behaviors. So whether that's buying a national park pass or a state park pass, or actively participating in recycling programs, or becoming fishermen that buy that fishing license each year. Long-term impact there. And then there's a bunch of health stuff too, and it's all important, but what gets me excited and keeps me going is the environmental end of this. So like I mentioned, we have training for daycare providers, so that's a big deal. That took us 2 years to get that approved by the state. You have to work through this whole bureaucratic process. So that's something we offer, and I know WISE some of them have daycare that they provide on site, so people, while they're working out, the kids are, so that's something that potentially we could provide training for those staff too. And then I mentioned the ECFE, early childhood, our leader certification today, so this is the third pilot that we've ever done with this leader certification, and then we're hoping to launch here out now around the state and bring it to more organizations. Another thing, this has an asterisk by it because it's in the hopper. It's an idea that we've been working on. Site consultation and community mapping, where we can actually work with organizations to help them figure out a game plan. Here's the green spaces around you. Here's conservation organizations in your area or your neighborhood. Here's ways that we can connect to transportation, and we can actually help you map out how a program could work at your site. So that's something that we hope to be offering soon. And then also the volunteer matching services is something we're just getting started. So as people that go through the training, and then also reaching out to those Minnesota Master Naturalist volunteers I mentioned. There's also Master Gardeners and Master Water Stewards. There's all kinds of volunteers in our state that want to be doing this hands-on education outreach. Creating kind of a server listing these different people that have these different skills that want to work with kids, and we can help match your site with some local volunteers who want to help. So that's something we're trying to create a database right now. we got all kinds of stuff going on. And then our toolkit. So I mentioned the training, the backpacks, and the equipment trunks, and we'll get familiar with this stuff as we go today. Online too, we have a website that's got a ton of resources and links you to other organizations around Minnesota and across the country that can give you ideas and even potential grant funding and things like that. So HEPA, have you guys heard of HEPA? And are all of you YMCA? Yeah. So it's something the YMCA is really proud of. They kind of developed it, and it's a big national effort. It stands for Healthy Eating and Physical Activity. And I know if you're like Y program staff and you're working with the kids, is that where they kind of make you go through the HEPA training? So there's a really nice video online. I know you can't read this, but on your flash drive we have the HEPA standards. So they cover the eating and the physical activity. And I just put stars, so this is just something visual you can see. There's a lot of the HEPA standards that incorporating Project Go-like activities help your organization to meet. So you guys are all working for the Y. It's kind of a no-brainer. And what I think is really fun about these kinds of activities is kids are getting that physical movement and they don't realize that that's kind of a hidden part of it. We're just having fun outside exploring. On top of that, they're also learning science stuff that they don't realize they're learning. So I think there's a lot of value kind of hidden into these kinds of activities. And so it goes on and on. Even some of the training stuff that within the HEPA standards, YMCA staff are supposed to get certain kinds of training. This training helps meet some of those requirements. So I'm just really pushing it with the Ys. And I think it's a great partnership. We worked with the Rochester Y, the Winona Y, the Burnsville Y. There's so much opportunity with the YMCAs. And not just in Minnesota. Holly knows my brain, I'm like, national. We could take this to Ys all across to Hawaii. I mean, it's kind of exciting. So the big thing is get to know the resources that are available to you in the toolkit. So today you get the handbook and the backpack. There's equipment trunks that we're going to kind of play around with. But you know, as we were creating this over the years, we had backpacks, and that's because I created my own backpack. Just that was something I learned in my environmental education classes. So at my sites, I'd have this backpack, and volunteers would say, well, can we get a backpack? So that's how the backpacks came about. But then I found we started giving backpacks to everybody that we trained, and some people were like, I don't ever use my backpack, and we weren't training them right. We didn't take a whole lot of time like we're gonna do today to play with the backpack. Get to know what's in there. It's a lot of fun stuff, and these equipment trunks, the same thing. I don't think anybody checked any of them out this summer. We had 2 sets of trunks at 2 different locations. Minneapolis and St. Paul each has a set of trunks, and we're gonna play with them today. They're free to check out. Part of it might be the transportation, getting them to where we need to have them, so we wanna try to map out better pickup locations, but there's cool stuff there for you to use for free. So get familiar with what's in there. And then the HEPA logo, and we also have our Project Go logo that you can blow up and laminate and show parents we're doing these kinds of programs. We're really invested in the health of your kids. So it's something in a marketing end. If you guys end up running YMCAs someday, keep that in mind to be able to promote and maybe attract more people to your program. I don't think the Y has a problem though of attracting people. So on the resource end of things, on our flash drive, we have a nice Project Go fact sheet. Holly helped create that. Just kind of summarizes what we've done over the last 10, 11 years. Our logic model that I showed you is on there. This report, we actually had a University of Minnesota grad student do this report for us a few years ago, looking at what other similar types of programs are out there across the country, and what are their strengths and what are their weaknesses. And then we kind of compared Project Go, because when we write grants, they always ask, well, what's out there? What are you replicating? What's different about your program? That's a nice, and she made really nice charts that are really easy to reference. So that's on your flash drive too. And then the HEPA standards are on there as well.